Glad you could join me in our lesson today. We are going to have a wonderful time. Hope you enjoyed our last tape. It was a wonderful experience to do the mountains. But now we're going to get down on the flat land and do something a little different. It's something that I did a painting quite some time ago, and I think I've had it on the TV show a couple times. So if you've been watching the television show, you probably saw the painting. But I want to do something really uniquely different. Remember, these tapes are designed to give you something really special to do that's not something quite like what we do on our TV show. They're a little bit more, not advanced much, but a little more complicated with a little more interest in learning new techniques and things that will help you further your career. Now, if you'll notice the photograph I got here, if you'll look at this, you might recall this if you saw the show, but I just love this little concept of the big pumpkin, the old bales of hay sitting around, and there's 3 cats here and a part of a house. And well, anyway, we're going to condense this down and do this bale of hay, the pumpkin, and this cat, and make it sort of enlarged over here on the canvas. But the reason I want to do this particular thing for us is to learn how to do the pumpkin, which is a different type of object, how to do the hay, and then of course the cat laying there, and then just a simple muddled background, sort of like you would for a portrait. You know how you muddle a background, and we'll just sort of then fade into the hay and so forth. It's really a unique and fun experience to do a painting like this, so I hope you'll enjoy it and you'll learn a lot. Now, before we do that though, I want to tell you a little bit about our canvas preparation. This canvas is a stretch canvas. It's a 16 by 20, and if you'll notice, I've got a little texture. If they'll close in on that you can see the texture. Now, I've talked to you before about this. I put the gesso on real thick globs of gesso, and I didn't even sand it this time because I want it to be kind of coarse. And that way, when we put the hay and everything in there, it really looks a lot more realistic. It's easier to paint if you have texture. So you can see the little brush strokes all through it. So you might want to prepare your canvas in advance for this by texturing it quite a bit. All right? All right, now take your charcoal, and the first thing we want to do is just sort of sketch in just the basic location of where the hay bale is. And it's sort of angled slightly here like this. And there's little bits and pieces of it that's breaking off over here. And if you've never been around on a farm, well, you know, hay bales are everywhere, and straw and stuff, and then we'll put the pumpkin here, and then again the animal, the cat, will overlap the cat right there. Kind of a real unique setting here. And we'll have it some sort of like this. It's kind of like a still life in a sense, but we're going to focus right here on these animals. And it could be, in the other painting I did, I put a picket fence in the background. I mean, you could do things like that, and we may decide to do that, or you could just put a barbed wire fence. You could do a lot of things. But right now we're going to take I have a large number 16 bristle brush. Now normally, if you recall, we'll use the hake brush, the Yarnell hake brush that I had designed. But because it's a coarse canvas, it kind of wears and tears on those brushes a little bit, and we want to scrub. So because we want to do some scrubbing, that brush really won't work too well. It's more for smooth blending. So now you'll take, I'm going to use this time a number 14 or a number 16 bristle brush. See, it's pretty wide and they're pretty stiff. Okay, and we're going to take that brush and we're going to start scumbling the colors on the background, starting first with our gesso. Just kind of work right in and around the background here. This will be done very quickly. You don't want to piddle with this too much, but you just take the gesso and you just kind of smooth it on around your objects here. And then because we're going to be working with some fall colors, the oranges and the reds, the peach colors, the tan, the browns, we need to go in with sort of a grayed, muddled background. It may even have a little bit of a greenish tint to it. Okay, so we go in and we get all this gesso on. And notice it's very loose, very free. Then you start throwing a little color. For instance, a little blue, a little green, a little burnt sienna. I just triple load my brush, just like this. And of course, you know my favorite color, and one that's very important is the purple. So you want to throw the purple in. Now see, you're going to throw it in like this, and you're going to muddle it around until you create a real unique background. Just something sort of soft and peaceful. Throw a little sienna, a little green, a little red. Oh, you can throw all the colors in there. So you just kind of scumble this in, and then we'll smooth it out a little bit. Don't want to get it too smooth. But you just do a muddled background. And of course, this is definitely called scumbling, so we've done that before. It's a little sienna and purple. Great color. And I'm going to put a little phthalo yellow green in this time up here. So I'm just kind of putting it on there. Just kind of work that in. Now, after you've got it all on there, then you just take your brush and you just go back and you use big X's. Now, we go back to sort of our X strokes, but these will just gently blend the colors together. It doesn't really make it perfectly smooth because we don't want it perfectly smooth. We like and want the texture of the canvas behind. So okay, see I'm blending, just kind of, but you've got all the colors working together. There's no hard lines of blending, you know, everything's subtly blended. Okay, yeah, that looks great. So you got a nice variety of color, which will be conducive to what we're going to do with this painting. Yeah, excuse me. Now we're going to go in with some of the brownish tones, which are the colors that we'll use to begin building the bales of hay, or the bale of hay. And we're going to start right back here, because this is the area, you know, where the hay has fallen off and it's kind of loose here. And we'll switch to number 10 bristle brush. You might have your number 6 bristle brush handy as well. Now remember, folks, anytime you have any questions, you don't hesitate to call us on our 800 number that you'll see on the screen here, and or write us a letter and let us know what's going on, because we'll, you know, if you have any questions at all, we'll be glad to answer them if it's at all possible. We can send you information on materials and things, how to prepare your canvas, and especially which brushes to use. That's one of the main things we get so many questions about is, you know, which brush does what? Well, don't hesitate to give us a holler, because right here, for instance, the best brush for the job is this number 10 or the number 6 bristle brush. What I'm doing now is taking a little bit of Hooker's Green and burnt sienna, and I'm just using a stroke that's just big X's, but they're kind of flat X's. And notice how I'm kind of blending it back into the background. See, this will create a fade so that there's no hard edge anywhere back there, okay? Okay, just come through. Cross like this. Keep coming in the foreground. Now, as you come into the foreground, you might want to add some more sienna, a little more yellow, a touch of orange, and a touch of purple. So you can just keep adding your colors. You want it to be loose and free in order for this to have the effect that it's supposed to have. Okay, just now I'm using a little purple and orange. These are the rich, earthy tones that make this painting really exciting. Now come right on across in the foreground here, and this will give us a good base to start putting the highlights on. Now, this is an exciting painting to do, so I hope you've got the courage to join us here. Now, see how nice that all fits in, blends up gracefully into the background. There's no hard edges, there's nothing there, it just sort of fades, all right? Now, this is, of course, our bale of hay, and it's going to be sort of at an angle there. So let's go ahead and underpaint that. We'll use the burnt sienna and a little bit of purple for that. And what you do here, and by the way, so that you'll have a real good understanding, see all the real deep, dark parts of the hay? That's what we're putting in there. Then when we put the highlight on, we'll let the dark come through, and then you've created your third dimension, okay? But you have to start like this. And notice how loose and free I'm being. I'm not really putting a whole lot of effort into it, and you don't really want to. And this will be in shadow over here, so you kind of make that shadowed, and you just make it kind of loose and rough and scattered. Then I'll show you how you turn it into hay in a minute. Oh, it's really a fun process. This is going to be one of your, I think, more fun tapes that we're working from as far as an individual subject goes. And again, I can't stress enough how important it is that you remember that all of this, the reason we've switched to also calling this the fine art school is because I'm wanting to do more in-depth studies using more fine art techniques. And I really feel like that's where we have to be with this in order for you to understand it. So remember, what this is mostly technique, how to create something. And then you can make your masterpiece later on. Okay, now that's the basic shape and location of the hay. So before we can put the pumpkin or anything else in there, we've got to start building the hay. Now we'll go down here and we're going to switch to our number 6 bristle brush. And now we'll be using some gesso. We'll be using orange, yellow, burnt sienna. Those are the 3 main components to putting the hay on there. Of course, you can use any of your earthy tones that you want to, but mostly the yellow, orange, and the sienna, okay? Now let's start on the top here. This is really fun, so just take your brush, be very loose and free, and just first of all, let's put a little light top on it. Okay, let's just kind of establish that there is a top to it here. You can see the flat part of it. You want to be able to see that there is an edge right across here and that there's a top for the pumpkin to sit on and for the cat to sit on. Okay, so we just build this. That. Okay, so now you've established in your mind and really where the top and the side is, okay? And of course there's the bottom of the hay down here. All right, so we know that there's a base to it as well, and then we go into the ground where all of it is kind of fallen apart, all right? Now we start brightening this. Now you can switch to, actually let's just stay with this brush. I think you'll be better off. Take the white and the orange and the yellow and begin now by putting the paint on a little thicker. See, little dry brush strokes. To kind of suggest the brighter sun hitting this, and then coming down in the side of it. See, we're just going to start putting some little rough strokes to suggest light, and then we'll come back and detail this. This will already, if you'll notice, just by using the proper brush strokes with the right colors, you can start really making this look like bales of straw or hay or whatever. It's all in understanding the technical aspect of stroking with the brush. Okay. Now you see there's the basic hay bale blocked in. Now down here in the foreground we've got some grasses, so let's take some phthalo yellow green and let's just kind of dry brush in like this, just a few little pockets of grass, because we know there's green grass coming up in through here, and this kind of adds a little interest to the painting. We don't want it to all just be brown and in the brown tone, so we do want to get some complements in here, and this green would be nice. So here and there we'll put a little bit of this, and we'll come back and accent that even more here in a minute. All right, now looking at where the pumpkin is, I want to make sure that I have a pretty good, now most of you will panic if you sketch it like this, but I'm pretty much used to just sketching things with my brush. I don't do a whole lot of charcoal work. I mean, I do some, of course, but I prefer to work just with my brush, but I have a lot of confidence because I've been doing this for many, many years. And as you build your confidence, you will too. So, you know, if you want to charcoal that in, so in case you goof up, you can, you know, dust it off, that's fine, or otherwise just use your brush. Now, take your brush and we're going to underpaint it with orange and purple. That will be the dark underpainting. Okay, now remember, we're just underpainting everything. So now you go in here with orange and purple. And you get that dark underpainting, and that's how you'll end up with the values that you see here. See the dark side of the pumpkin? That's exactly the color. And when we put the highlight on, that part will show through, and that's how you create your pumpkin. Okay, see we've got the basic shape of the pumpkin. Of course the cat will go here. We're not going to, that's the very last thing you put in there, or for that matter you can put any kind of little animal there. You might want to put a, you know, a dog laying there. You could put a rabbit sitting up there. I mean, there's a lot of things. It just, the cat just happened to be in the picture and I really like it, and I thought you might enjoy seeing a quick idea how that works. Now we've got the basic layout here. Okay, it's really exciting. Keep in mind, you still may want to put a piece of a broken fence back there, or just a fence post or two with some wire that's broke down. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. So we may play with that after we get the main part of this lesson done. Otherwise, I'll just leave you on your own to put whatever you want to in there. Okay, now let's just take this. It's dry enough now. I think we can start putting some brighter highlights in. But I'm going to switch now to a smaller brush. I'm going to use my little number 4 round flat sable. Now I'm going to go back with the white and the yellow and the orange and just a little water. Kind of roll your brush, get it nice. It's a very fluid stuff there, you can see. And now, just holding your brush back like this, you just manipulate the brush like this so that you can start creating the effect of hay. And what it is, just little short choppy strokes. Now, the secret here is to keep it loose and free. Don't try to get down there and try to make it look like a photograph. That is not going to cut it. You have to be loose, you have to be free, you have to just kind of let the chips fall where they may, so to speak. Just stroke it quickly and loosely. See, and if you don't piddle with it too much and you let that background come through, then you definitely get a very hay-like effect. Really neat. And then you just kind of scatter it around. Like this, like the hay is broken off. Scatter some back in through here. A little bit all the way across in there. See, it's very exciting, very loose, very free. Of course, the real fun is when you come back and put the little accent highlights on that give it away, where you have some individual strands of the straw or the hay there. And notice I'm being very rough right in through the front here, because we know this is where the hay has been squished together and baled, and we don't want it to be too perfect. You know, it's got a very rough, coarse edge. I tell you, when I was younger, I used to, it was one of my jobs in the summer was to bale the hay. I used to love to go out and work on the farms and ranches where we lived, and I loved it. Don't ask me why. It was hard, hot, heavy work, but it was fun for me. I really enjoyed it. Maybe it's because every day I got to eat a huge meal. They always fed you good. Maybe that's why I did it, because I got to eat so good. All right, now, if you'll notice, you can take the white and just make it a little bit brighter, and this is how you build yourself up in degrees or increments of values, just by adding the white. Now see, I'm making a little brighter, a little lighter touch, a little more refined, if you will, with the strokes. See, I'm not so loose and free as I was, yet I am still very loose. Now we'll be working on this hay bale for off and on throughout the whole painting. Even when we start the pumpkin and finish the cat up here, we'll still be working on the hay just as a practical matter, because every time we stroke something somewhere, it adds a little bit of interest. We want to add it down in here, like maybe a different color, or maybe we need to add some more dark values to create some of the pockets where the hay is split. Probably a good idea. Now, let's block in a little more of the pumpkin so we can get the cat blocked in there. My favorite thing to do is move quickly through the whole painting, get it all underpainted, and then come back and refine all the different components to suit my own needs. All right, I'll switch to my number 6 bristle brush, and we'll take pure orange. But notice I've got a little mud on there, okay? Notice the mud? A little bit of water to make it kind of creamy. Let's go back up here now and start on the right-hand side, and just come around like this and be kind of rough like this, and you come down and you leave some of the dark showing through. To create the little, the indentations that you see. A little brighter on the top here. I see, I'm just going to gradually build this pumpkin out. This may be the main feature for some of you, is the pumpkin. Maybe the hay for others, maybe the cat for others. So this thing has a threefold, learning thing in it, actually. Like this. Now see, I'm being very careful, but I'm also very deliberate with my stroke. That's one thing I want to make sure everyone understands. As a professional artist, we put these strokes on here, and a lot of people get disgusted or discouraged because, they're struggling with it. Remember, it takes practice. Learn to be deliberate with your stroke. Because it looks like we're doing it quick and loose and we're not paying attention, believe me, there's a whole lot of thought that's going into every stroke. It's just that with all the experience over the years, I've been able to understand what's going to happen when I do a certain thing with this brush. So you will get it in time, so be patient with yourself. All right, now I'm just kind of refining it a little bit, and then I just keep building up the brightness. Now I'm going to take the orange a little more. Kind of hit the edge there. And I'm kind of building these little depressions in there, and at the top right there where the stem is, well, you're going to leave it kind of dark and kind of sunk in. That's why you see, when you go like this, you just sort of dry brush it around. And if you happen to cover up too much of the dark, don't panic. You can always come back and add it. Okay. Now you see how that's starting to come alive? Isn't that exciting? I just think that's just absolutely marvelous, the way just a few strokes with a little bit of dark value here, a little light value there, and pretty soon you've got it. Now I'm going to take my little number 4 sable brush with a little purple and a touch of burnt sienna, a little blue probably as well, and I'm going to make the stem Now it's not that dark in reality. We'll lighten it in a minute, but everything starts with a dark value. And then I'm going to put a dark shadow right there. See, that's a little cast shadow from the stem. Right there, like that. And then you can use this darkness if you feel like you need more, which I do over here. Go ahead and add it. I mean, don't be afraid to go back and add the darkness if you've gone too far or whatever. Okay, you see how nice that's starting to look? That just looks so good. Okay? Now, we're not done with that, but we've got as far as we need to go with it at the moment. Now what I'm going to do is get my charcoal out here, and I'm going to locate where the cat goes. And I had pretty well had him in there before, but I'm going to just make sure I'm satisfied with that. Now, my wife and my little boy love cats. I'm not a big cat fan myself, but this particular painting is a great painting, a great photograph. Okay, I'm just kind of sketching in the basic location of the cat there, and we'll start right now blocking the cat in, and it's very simple to do. Just take your number 4 sable brush, take a little burnt sienna and a little blue. That'll create sort of a brownish tone, and just block in the cat, just like this. Always start, remember, with your darker values. We'll do this, and then we'll let everything dry, and then we'll be ready to start putting all the final exciting details in there. Okay, so now you just kind of block this in like this. That's really all you have to do. It's just a quick underpainting, and then the rest will fall into place here in just a minute. Now, don't be afraid to use a little water. Be careful, though. You want to keep it fairly creamy, the consistency. I don't know what kind of cat this is, but I think it's just a good mouse-catching cat. Okay. We're just about ready to put the final touches on here. Okay. Now, this is another thing too, so you can go back in and add some dark values inside the hay if you've covered up too much of it. Don't ever be afraid to go back and do some of this, okay? All right, well, that's where you should be at this point. Now, I'm just putting a little shadow there, and we'll start putting some more highlights on in here in just a minute. Okay, now that we've got the cat all blocked in here, the pumpkin, the hay bale, it's time to go in and start doing all the fun little details that really make this painting come alive, okay? And that's my, I guess, really in a way, my favorite part of the painting, because even though this is fun and exciting, there's something about seeing the life come out of it that's really exciting. So now then, let's start though with some intermediate things, say down in this area, around in the hay, and we'll just kind of move our way back up into the cat and the pumpkin. And for this, I'm going to switch to, I like my script brush for this because it's flexible and I can create a lot of the little hay strands. And all we're going to do now is go down to our palette. We'll take a little yellow and the orange there, as you can see, and some white. Now the white will opaque it and give it a little bit more of a snap. Okay, so we put the white in there, roll it around good, come up here to our hay bales, and down here in this area, and just watch what we do now. See, we just kind of come in like this. It's kind of like it is definitely a scumbling technique. I just begin throwing in these nice, exciting little, scrubby little limbs. These are just like when we do the paintings with weeds on them, except these are all scrunched together, a lot stiffer. So it's one of those times where you can get away with a stiff weed. Just kind of go through and just, now you'll spend a lot more time on this than we're going to here on the program, because this is something that you will want to just do. I mean, see all the little bits of hay and stuff down here on the ground. You know, just quick little strokes. I mean, it doesn't take that much time really, but there's no sense, again, like I mentioned before, in us just spending all that repetitive time here on the show. So what I do is like to get you started with what it is that you need to do, and then turn you loose to finish it. And now you'll go back and forth to use light colors, and then there will be times when you use darker colors as well. But we go through here, and let's get some behind the cat, and then we'll have to finish the cat before we put the ones in front. So you see there's a process involved in this. So let's go ahead and get these, then we'll come back and do the cat. Just really exciting. Hold your brush back. Be very loose, very quick with the stroke. Don't sit up there and just really nail them one at a time. That's not going to work. You've got to really have this loose brush attitude and really get your hand to be freed from real monotonous, careful detail. That'll destroy it. Absolutely. Okay. I'm just going kind of every direction. Apply heavy pressure sometimes, lighter pressure at other times. Just sort of begin developing a very, very just loose bunch of lines. It's like little squiggles. Remember when you were a kid and you played the squiggle game where you'd make a squiggle and turn it into something? Well, here you just make a bunch of squiggles that overlap each other, and this kind of suggests loose hay. Isn't that neat? Okay, now I don't want to again spend too much time on this because we've got so many things to do, but this kind of gives you the idea. See how you make the hay. You start it with a dark underpainting, intermediate smudges to kind of create the basic pockets of the hay, and then you come back with this brush, and then later on you can come back with your real bright lights for the accents, okay? And see, like right in there, and then down in here where the hay is falling, kind of falling apart from the bale, you can be a little more specific with some of the strokes. And see how sharp that looks? If you keep the color clean and you don't get it all muddled, it really looks like little strands of hay or straw. And with that background, remember the background plays an important part. That's really the key, because it's got a rough texture. And every time you run your brush across there, it leaves sort of a dry brush scratchy look, just like the hay would look. All right, and that's why painting is not just about putting it on. And mixing color, it's about all the preparation and getting involved and preparing canvas, knowing which ones to use, how smooth it should be, how textured it be. A lot going on here now. You see how exciting that is? Okay, let's go back to the cat now. I'm going to move this over here. Now I'm going to go to my number 4 sable brush, my little round one, and you're going to need your flat one. You're going to need both of them for this. And now there's a little spot back here where I didn't cover enough of my gray. Let's go ahead, maybe we better do that just to make sure that's done. Let's take a little white, and I should have covered that better. But that's a lesson in itself, learn to be a little more, make sure you get more of your background covered up there. Okay, use the green, a little white, a little purple, and a touch of blue. And we'll just go in here and we'll put that in there. It's a little too dark still. Best to paint a little lighter than you want it to be, because remember your acrylics always dry out much, much darker. So this is a good test in mixing color and understanding it. So don't panic when you have a little problem like this. It'll all work itself out. Okay, that's good. Now, I'm going to take my little number 4 sable brush. I'm going to go ahead and block in the cat's, the front part of him and maybe part of his face there. I'm going to just take white, and there's a little bit of mud in my brush. Now I always keep my brushes, as you know, with a little mud in them, and I use that word lightly because it's not mud like you think. It's a cleaner mud than that. Now right here where his shoulder, his front right shoulder here comes down. We kind of lighten that. And again, this is a quick loose stroke as well. And then here's, you know, his nose comes down. There's a little white spot in the middle of his nose. Now, we're about to lose ourselves here. Okay. Now this is where you have to be a little more detailed. But you have to come in here with this brush and concentrate on the form of the nose, the mouth, and all the things that go in here. I'm going to outline where the eyes go. You know, the eyes of a cat have these real, I don't know, kind of piercing look to them. Almost, and to me, it's almost got an evil look to them. And I know that for you cat people, that doesn't sound good, but to me, it's got that kind of look to it. But now we go in there. There's a pink area for the nose. And I'm just going to show you the process. You'll probably want to go in there and spend a little time managing this to suit your own self. But I'm going to dab in a little pink spot for the nose. And then we'll come back later and work the details in around it, okay? Now, he'll look kind of funny right at first. They always do. They look kind of like other kinds of animals sometimes until you get it all taken care of. Now I'm coming back with a little light around his face there. Dry brushing this fur. And his eyes are bright yellow. They have a real yellowish tint to them. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And they're slanted. So yeah, just like that. Okay, now we go on each side of the cat's face and we cut down the nose. So you can't leave everything just in a rough form. You have to go back and refine, or it really does look very strange. There's a highlight on the edge, kind of a brownish tone right here. It's a little tufts of hair fur that kind of hang out on the side there. It's kind of neat looking. You know, every cat's different, and you have to just kind of play with the face until you get it. And it's a combination of real quick strokes that make it work. Now, see right there where the eyes are, they're over. You always paint them a little bigger than you should, but that's normal. And then I'm going to come back in and cut them down to size. And go right in there where the nose is. There's a little bit of a indentation there. And what you'll do is you'll learn to stroke this thing. It's probably kind of hard to see with my hand in the way here, but everything's a quick stroke, okay? You do everything very quick. And get the point on the ears right, because you know, cats' ears are different than dogs' ears and other kinds of ears. They're more pointed. They got sort of a V shape to them. And after you get that, then we'll come back and start refining the shape a little bit more. I'm going to get the shadow on the back side of his face right here. And you just start building him in there. And now I'm going to switch to my number 4 sable brush, because this is the one that has the most control. And this is where I'll come in here and I'll take care of the top of his nose. Bottom of his mouth there. Put a little highlight on the top of his head, on top of his ears. And I'll tell you what, you can just have more fun creating with this and just dry brush out some little tufts of hair on the outer edges. You can see part of his foot right there, and it's kind of a whitish color. Now the eyes have a real dark center to them. The problem with this particular one, and it seems like everything does have a problem, is it's so dark and so small you can't really see it that well. So even with this photograph, as clear as it is, it's hard to see it. We'll work on it here until we get it. Okay. Now then, we'll put a little highlight on the back side of his body here. Now we're going to gray this a little bit. This is sort of a bluish gray, and you can see now that'll help widen out the edge of his face right there. I like to put a little purple in there because that adds that real nice little color. You know, purple is an incredible color for anything, whether it's your background and your highlights, sometimes in your shadows. It can do so much to your painting. Now he's hunched down right here, right there where I just highlighted that little bit. That's where his hind leg is kind of folded up underneath him. And all you want to do is highlight the edge of that. So we'll just take a little bit of white and orange. And we're going to come back and work on him some more towards the end here. But right now we want to just kind of get everything blocked in. Highlight the top of his body there. But if you use real short, choppy strokes, it makes him look kind of rough, like he is. He's just a rough old farm cat, probably seen his share of battles with other cats or perhaps with some other animals. And I always come in with just some quick strokes to make his fur look kind of rough and kind of beat up. I'll tell you what, he really does look beat up. This cat needs some help. Anyway, you can have fun. So you just start building in, and then you start refining the shape of his face. And we're getting closer now. But let's get off of that for a minute and go back to the pumpkin because I want to get in there a little brighter before we actually put the final highlight on the cat. Now take the white and the yellow and the orange, just those three colors, the white, the yellow, and the orange. This time you probably will want a little more yellow in for your final highlight. You can see it's got a yellowish glow to it. Still, orange is the predominant color, but if you come in now with the yellow like this on top and kind of let it blend into the color underneath, then you'll come up with a much cleaner, more elaborate sunlight effect. And then see, gradually dry brush the color over into the existing color. And that's how you create this wonderful three-dimensional look. Right down to the back edge of the cat there, dry brush it down. See how it's neat how the strokes are showing because of the textured canvas? That is one of the neatest things. So I really hope you'll try that texture on the canvas. It's just really great. A little white with that on the edge of the trunk there, or the, what do you call it, the stem. Take my finger and kind of soften it a little bit there. And you can always put the little accent highlights. You know, every time you do something that's rounded like this, or like it could be an apple or an orange or something, you can take white and you can go back and you can put these little accent highlights on top of it. See, just like that, kind of dry brush it, leave it alone, don't piddle with it. Remember the 3 P's, folks. Don't piddle, play, or putter. Yeah, that's looking great. I'm excited. Now remember what I said about that. I get excited about my work, not so much because I like it, because let me tell you folks, I'm like the rest of you. I have many, many struggles with what I do. And I don't always like my work, but every once in a while I get a spot that I like and I'm real happy with it and I like the way that pumpkin's looking. Now I'm going to go back and just very quickly kind of shape the eyes of this cat just a little bit more. Just because I want to go ahead, yeah, that really helps a lot. It's amazing what the eyes do for any animal, okay? It really is amazing. And that really solved a lot of the problem that I was dealing with this, is by getting the proper width and the roundness or the slant or whatever it might be there. Okay, now let's take just a little bit of burnt sienna and white. Just taking the burnt sienna and the white. And I'm going to go ahead and put some of the highlights on his back right there. They're a little bit warmer highlights. The top of his head, right there on, just over his right side and there. This kind of softens him. Put a little color in his ear. You don't want him to be just too much of a solid color, okay? He's really a pretty cat, and even though he's kind of rough, he's really got a nice effect. Okay. Now, being a wildlife painter all my life and working with the Ducks Unlimited folks early on in my career, you know, I learned a whole lot about animal painting. And it really helped me a lot in my professional career when I branched out on my own. It just really helped me understand more and more about what quick stroke would do and leave it alone and not piddle with it. It just seems to do a whole lot for the painting. Now I'm going to take pure white, and here again we're going back to the quick stroke thing. Pure white with this little brush. I'm going to put the accent whites on him, and that's the part right around in the front there. And very important that you get this, just a quick stroke, quick stroke, quick stroke. See, that just really accents his nose. And come on the outer edge like this. This is very important right here, that you just pull that out and don't sit there and play with it, okay? I'm going to keep nailing you on this piddle, play, and putter thing, because it'll get you in trouble every single time. Little accent over here on his hindquarters. And see, just kind of scatter the highlights around wherever you think you want them to be, and you'll be in good shape. A little on the top of his nose there. Yeah, shaping up very good. All right, now, let's take the script brush again. And over here down in the foreground now, I want to add some regular weeds, you know, the kind of weeds that you would see when you would, you know, just that are not mowed. Well, let's just take a little bit of green, a little bit of purple, and I want to get some dark weeds now over on the right-hand side, angling in towards our main feature. For instance, like right here, I want to come up from the bottom. This, I want to have some coming in like this, over here like this. And especially down in this corner, all the way through here. We want these vertical weeds that come up that have a lot of bend to them, kind of pulling your eye back in towards the feature of the painting here. Again, like I said, you might want to add some things to this. Thinking about a little piece of a fence back there here in a minute. But we'll see here. I think we probably will add a little bit of something. The one painting that I did, I put this whole scene together in a little different format, but I had a lot of fun with it. I put a picket fence and put some other things in there. It got real complicated. It'd be a little too complicated to do on the show here, but this will help you give an idea how you can do things. Okay. You can do another thing too. This is probably the best thing, is come from behind, like with an old broken dead branch. Things like this add tremendous character and great balance to the painting. See, this comes out from behind the pumpkin, kind of out of where the brush is, where the weeds are, and then also where the hay has started to come apart. See what that does? That really helps it be a good eye stopper for the left side of the painting, and this will satisfy having to add anything else that's a major object, which would be really good if you could keep from it. All right, now the next thing you want to add here are what we call the accent highlights, the ones that really make it sparkle. Now this is done like this. This is a little different situation. You take the brush and you insert it into, like the white, for instance. See, I just stuck it in, I make these little peaks of paint. And then you stick it into the yellow and you make the little peaks of paint. And those are the highlights you use when you want to put the final snap to things. And you can see a lot of those in here. See, that's so clean and so bright. So these are the highlights that you put in at the end now, as you begin finishing up. See, and you just dry brush very gently, folks. Please be careful with this. This is what makes the painting look like the sun's really hitting it in some key areas. Dry brush down here, be a little more specific with some of your strokes of, the hay. See how this is building here? Isn't that wonderful? What a great accent this is. Makes it just look like it's sparkling. And the good news is you can use the same highlight also on the pumpkin. I'm going to put a little brighter highlight up here. See, it's just a real thin sliver of light. And see how the light's starting to develop in this painting? And then your eye stays focused right here. Okay, more yellow, more white. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to keep on with the process of putting in these bright, clean light. Again, it's one of those things I was telling you about earlier where, it's kind of repetitive, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I'll let you do this. But notice now the light against the pumpkin and against the cat's fur. See, that's a good indication that the hay is just moving around, either the wind blowing it or it's just falling apart. Right down here is a good spot to put a lot of little broken spots of the brighter hay. And then probably, if I would think about this as a finished piece, I would probably go ahead and put some other color in here, maybe to the tune even of some mauves and purples, simply because in the fall you need that array of color. And sometimes it will depict a fall flower, which we have a lot of fall flowers, little wildflowers that grow. I don't know where you live, but where we live, we have flowers that bloom different times of the year. And up in the mountains, you'll have a whole bunch of flowers that are in a fall tones. So as a practical matter, sort of accent things, you can do a couple of things for this. You can take your number 4 brush, flat sable, and you can take, and first of all, you could put a few leaves on this tree. That would be the first thing. And that would be the burnt sienna and a little bit of orange. And you might want to scatter like this, some real rust-colored leaves, see, just like this. And they will kind of embed themselves down into this part of the painting. And boy, I tell you what, this really is a nice touch. Look at that, just a quick swish, and that gives you everything you need to deal with there. And don't be afraid to let it overlap the pumpkin. That's not going to be a problem at all. And make it a little more rust colored. Just scatter them. See, it's a dry brush. Notice how I take the brush and I just swish like that. It creates a suggestion of leaves that have fallen or are falling, and then down here on the ground you do the same thing. These are the leaves that have fallen. You scatter this color down on the ground, and that helps sort of repeat the color in the pumpkin, and this is how you get color continuity. Okay, so keep that in mind. Just scatter a little bit of this around. You know you're going to have leaves that have kind of moved around here. Isn't that exciting? Isn't this a beautiful little setting? This is an outstanding little painting. It's all really in its finished form pretty much without doing a whole lot else to it. Okay, but then I want to add the little tiny flowers. And this will give me our finishing touch. So we take the white, a little bit of purple. I think I'll stick with the purple flowers. And I will just go in and sort of accent like this. You don't have to make a specific flower. You're just going to add the little accent colors. We've done this before. It could be blue. If you like the blue, that's fine. You can even put some white ones. But if you look what this purple does, this will just give you a nice idea how well it blends into the fall scheme of things. But these little purple wildflowers. And then you can accent it however you want to. I mean, if you need to add red in there, you can add the reds. You can add other colors. You can put, like I said, an old fence in the background if you'd like a fence post there. But I want to share with you how this works. If you take your charcoal This is why I love to use the charcoal, and I love this little painting so much already. I don't think I'm going to do anything, but I'm going to go ahead and put the fence, at least sketch it in here and show you what I'm talking about. This is how you determine whether you want to add something or not. See, if you put the fence in there, it would have to be slightly to the left of center, left of the cat there and overlapping the pumpkin. And then maybe just have some wire that's broken, you know, or maybe just simply an old post with nothing on it, just the post itself. And so what I'm going to have you do is take some time to think about whether you want that in there or not. Watch what happens now. This is the way you do it. You put it in there, you steady it, you see how it looks, and then you erase it with your paper towel. And then you look at it again and you can see now the image in your mind if it belongs there or not. That's why I like to use the charcoal, because when it's there, I can imagine it, you know, when I erase it, it looks better in my case, I think, without it. So don't be afraid. However, if you want to try a picket fence, well, sketch this in here. Fix it in your mind. Okay, this is what it looks like with it in there, basically. I don't particularly think that's all that necessary, but then when I erase it, it finalizes in my mind whether it really is needed or not. If I've got enough focus here and I have enough soft color there to keep me there, I don't think it's necessary. And this painting has all the possibility of being a phenomenally finished, very good quality painting that you could frame and hang up or sell or do whatever you want to with. Well, I think I'm going to quit on mine. I'm very pleased with this. I would spend a little more time doing some accent highlighting, creating a little bit more character with some of the things like the cat, or maybe changing the color of the cat if you have a specific color there. You know, you can even add another small pumpkin in here. Those are things you can do and get away with without damaging the composition, okay? Well, it's been a lot of fun having you today, and I hope you've really gotten a lot out of this lesson. I certainly have enjoyed showing it to you. And next time I have a real treat for you, so I hope you'll be able to hang around for us when we do that lesson, okay? Well, God bless you. Stay inspired.